to speak to us today. So I have students from both my modules at King's Business School, from my entrepreneurial family firms, which is the final year undergraduate module, and from entrepreneurship in family business, which is a module taken by students in the MSc, Strategic Entrepreneurship Innovation, and the Masters in Management as well. So it's really nice to see both groups together here today. And we are very pleased to welcome a previous alumna of KCL. So Nehal studied at KCL, as you all know. She is also a family business director. She's going to tell us about her experience after graduating, working, and then joining the family business. So it's a group of 3 family firms, right? So I think it's an education business, a cables business, and tourism, hospitality.
That's right.
Right, and Nehal is also co-founder of a consulting firm for next generation family business leaders, and we have many next generation family business members who are doubtful about their future or not so sure about the next steps. So I think it will be great for everyone to hear from your experiences. So welcome. I'll give the floor to you so you have the time to present as we agreed, and then we will open for questions later.
Sure. I'll just quickly link my presentation and open that up as well.
Okay.
Whenever you can view my screen, just let me know and I'll begin.
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. Hope the dimensions are not haywire and it's legible.
It seems fine, but it's not in presentation mode yet.
Yes, I'm not putting in presentation mode yet. Otherwise, I mean, I just can't see like more documents I have. But I'm sure that you're getting a full view of the picture. I hope that is all right.
Yeah, that's okay. Great. That's okay.
Great. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak to each and every one of you. I would first like to thank Elisa. Thank you for thinking of me as someone who's worthy enough to speak to all the next generation entrepreneurs we have on the call today. I think it's going to be, if I can help you even a little bit going ahead, it would be something that I will really cherish. And that's what I want to deliver through today's talk. As Elisa also mentioned, a little about 5 years ago, I was actually on the other side of this screen/table. I was a King's alumni, and I had the good fortune of interacting with so many people from all over the world, much like this room that I see here today. So it's nice to see actually so many people showing up, because generally my morning lectures, we wouldn't have such a turn up. But I think now, since classes are online, we don't have much of an excuse. So thank you so much for each and every one of you, especially all the younger students that we have here, for joining in. I actually took up the same course, Elisa. I took it in my final year as well when I was doing my undergrad. And it was through this course that I actually developed, an interest in my own family business and the wider, territory of family businesses. So that will be the agenda for today as well. And in the true spirit of it being an online session, I would love to have the room open to some interactions. I'm not sure if we have chats on Teams. I'm still new to Teams. Okay, great. We have some chats. So yes, I would love to have everyone respond along the way, so I know that everyone's finding the session engaging enough. So the jargon we can use for the day would be yes, yes. So if there's anything that you agree with, you can go ahead and say yes, yes. If not, you can go ahead and say no, no. That would do. So like just as a run through, I'd like to know how many of you actually watched the controversial show with Meghan and Harry in the interview that's much talked about. So I'd love to see some people writing on the chat if they actually saw it or not. You can just write yes, yes, and I'll see. Okay. Okay. So I have answers from people. Most of you have watched it. So good that you're using your VPN to the best way possible. Great. So you get the drill. Let's dive straight in now. Let me just go through a little bit again of what I do before we start. So I work in the education industry. We have teachers training and vocational colleges all over the state of Rajasthan, which is a state in India. I'm going to talk a little bit about my role in each of these a little later. We also have hotels and restaurants all over the city that I reside in. I'm also on the board of director for one of the listed companies here in India, and I'm also a next generation coach. All of these things I'll get to in a while. But today I want to first let you know of all the things that I want to address through the medium of this call. So, Elisa, as you explained, these are still students who are yet to make that decision if they want to be a part of their family business or not. So, I was in the same shoes a couple of years back where I was contemplating if I should be a part of my family business or not. So, if I can help you in making that decision in any way possible, I think my job here, my role here, would be done. Again, family businesses are very well diversified. They have multiple industries. So, I want to take you along the ride of how to choose what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Then again, since family businesses are such a generational concept wherein you don't work for just one generation but multiple generations, I want to talk to each of you a little bit about how to create this multi generational sustainability. So I'll start a little bit by my own journey, so that you get a little idea of my family business and a little family business context in general. So I come from the city in Jaipur. It is one of the cities in India. Not sure if the entire class knows much about India and Indian families, but we are not like smaller nuclear families. We're big, giant, joint families that live together. So growing up, I was living, under a roof with 15 of my family members. My grandparents and other relatives were in. It was my father when he was
Nehal,
21.
it's just
Yeah.
to let you know, it's breaking a little bit, the
Okay.
audio.
Okay. Uh,
Seems to be fine now.
mm, okay, I'll continue. And in case you feel the issue still occurring, just let me know in the middle and I'll pause and fix my network. Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Great. Not a problem. So he started his apparel business of exports when he was 21, and his first office was essentially the rooftop of our ancestral home. And since that was a time when the Indian economy was just opening up, exports were on the rise, the business was booming. And before we knew it, we had more and more family businesses, family members who decided to come and become a part of this business. And growing up surrounded by so many people working towards one single cause, it really made me feel that business was eventually something that I wanted to get into. But on the flip side, actually, I decided to take up a corporate role. Looking at all of my peers, my counterparts, uh, getting offers from PwC, EY, and the likes, made me think that that is something that I wanted to do. Would love to hear if some of you have also had any corporate exposures, be it internships, or any other experiences that you have had. Some yes, yes in the comments would be great. Okay. Okay. Don't see enough. Yes, yes. So I'm assuming that not many of you have had corporate exposures yet, but that's something that you will delve into now later. Okay. So, now the fact that I said that I decided to join a corporate, it makes it sound like it was not a good experience. but it is something that really helped me and gave me a perspective of what it is to work for a company, of that larger scale. It taught me the power of discipline, time management, people management, politics, and all of the things that are now when I'm back in my family business is so much of a help. In this tenure, although all these good things were happening, I also realized that I did not like being put in a box. For me, when you get a corporate role, when you get a corporate job, which is going to be the first time for many of you here, since you've not had that exposure before, you will be handed out a sheet which is going to, outline all the responsibilities, the job roles that you're supposed to take care of, and it's kind of, within those boundaries, your role would be remain restricted in. And for me personally, I work with a more independent approach where I like being the boss of things. And I realized that in my stint. So after 2 years of working for Deloitte, I decided to quit, and I came back to my family in Jaipur, and decided to join my business. So when we hear, family businesses, uh, it's the first thing that comes to your mind would be the typical mom and pop stores that you see around. But over the years, the landscape of family businesses have really changed. They're contributing to almost two-thirds of the global GDP, employing over 50% of the workforce, and have remained stable in the face of adversities, even like COVID, for example. Family businesses have had steady growth. They are much more profitable, and they take on less debt, and hence a little more sustainable than other non-family businesses. So when I was presented with this opportunity, like any other opportunity, it can leave you a little confused, and I'm sure many of you are going through this confusion as well when you're at this stage, when you've taken up a module like this, that if you should or should not join your business. And when you're working with your family, there is so much of an unspoken social contract, that leaves you wondering of what it is going to be like, when you do decide to join your family business. So, Anna, I'll get on to the first question I wanted to kind of address, which was, should you join your family business or not? When I'd like to, walk through an example of a friend of mine who happened to graduate, with me in the same batch. A friend of mine had huge businesses back in Hong Kong. He was studying in London, and he was going to be the third generation entrepreneur to venture into his business. Once he was done with his degree, he was really contemplating of what options he had, and he was at the shoe he was in the shoes of someone, who I'm probably thinking you are all in the same shoes. The talking points or thinking points that you can think of when you're at a crossroad like this, would be the following. First is, what is really motivating you to join? So I sent out a survey yesterday. I'm not sure if many of you had the chance to fill it in. I did see a couple of names, here and there, but it had a question that said, "Do you know your purpose in life?" And do you know what really motivates you? uh, you know People go on to this endless search, trying to find their purpose, trying to find the meaning of their lives. But when you're joining, any business, or you're taking a big career decision like this, you really have to see that what it is that is your end goal, what it is that you want out of, your corporate life, your personal life. And I saw almost like 50% of the people that had replied to that survey, they were unclear of what was motivating them. If I go back to the example of, my friend, Max, from Hong Kong, for him the reason was that his dad expected him to. Now, he was not getting jobs at the moment. It was the year of Brexit. So for him, it was like, that's my best way of getting at the top, getting a good job for myself. And that made me realize, that made all of us realize, that there's no right or wrong motivation, but it's important for you to understand why you're wanting to do whatever it is that you're wanting to do. It is always better to know that what is the motivation that you want to work towards, what's the end goal. And if those goals are being met in your family business, well and good, go ahead. But if you're only caving to external pressure, where your family expects you to join or take over, then that might not be the best fit. You might end up resenting them a little later, so you should stay away from that. uh, going to going to the second point that you might want to consider is, are you really ready for the commitment? Now, you know, for many of us, corporate jobs are going to look like wherein we enter at 9 o'clock, we leave at 5. What happens, between 5 to 9 is not really something we even think about. We don't devote our headspace to that. But when you're involved with the family business, your emotional bandwidth, your mental bandwidth, your physical bandwidth is really intertwined, in your family business. The space between your family life and your business life, there's no blur between those things. Your identity is tied to work, and sometimes, you might feel that you're extremely committed to your business. You cannot leave. And in case you have other things that you want to experiment with, you want to try out, it is always best to do those things before you join your family business, because your family business would be a big commitment. You will not be able to leave. uh, Another point that you should think about is that, do you have significant exposure outside of the family business? From the questions that I asked, I realized that not many of you have had corporate exposures outside. uh, for me, in my case, there were many lessons I learned, many experiences I got to keep in my bag and learn through them. But when you look at the flip side of it, when I did join my family business, my family business leaders, managers, employees, they looked at me as someone who was capable enough of getting a genuine promotion at their work, someone who was valued somewhere else too. And when I did come back to my family business, it was all the more easy for them to be able to accept me, because I was respected in that position before. So that's something that all of you should think about as well. Another thing you have to consider is, are your personal relationships strong enough? Um, you know, you will not realize this, but families work together. They don't always have to love each other. But so many times you're going to have a quarrel with your father, your aunt, your uncle, in the boardroom, and you're going to come back and have dinner with the same set of people. So, there's not really a divide between the two. And if you have very straining, very weak relationships already in the family, it might, not withstand the pressure of working together. So you have to be really careful about what relationship you hold with each of the person who's involved in the business, especially people who, are much higher in authority, who hold key decision making positions. And you want to make sure that your relationships with them are really strong. The final thing that you might want to think about is that really even a job, that is there, if it's a real job or not. What it's going to help you with, it's going to help you understand that it's going to make you feel much more valued, when you have a job that's actually needed versus one that, it's made up for you. It's often the case, and I'm sure if you some of you have people that in the family business area, uh, often it's the case that they'll have different siblings joining at the same stage, but not enough work to distribute amongst those three. So you will have one person dedicating a lot of time in the office, and others, spend office chatting, meeting up with friends, and tensions arise out of those things, and they're bound to boil over. So understand if what you're getting into is really a job or not. For Max, who's my friend, he had a negative motivator, which was his dad expecting him to, and he was worried that he will not get any opportunity outside. But he was sure ready for the commitment. He knew that he could commit to being involved full time with his family, working with them. He had internships that he had done before, so he thought that that would add up as a good exposure outside of his business. He had really strong relationships in the family, and for him, because he was the only third generation to join the business at that stage, it was really a need for his family. Through this, I want you to understand that there are no magic answers, there's no right or wrong, but there has to be a foundation to have a healthy discussion with the current leadership of your family. If at any stage you feel uncomfortable about asking questions, that in itself might be a red flag. And that should make you think again if you should join your business or not. Uh, you can screenshot this and ponder over this later, as in when you come at those crossroads where you bound to choose a side of going for your family business or going for a corporate job. For now, I'll move on. Yeah. So another approach I want to talk about, as Alicia mentioned, that I'm myself into multiple industries, and family businesses in itself are very diversified. All family businesses you will see around yourself will not only hedge on one industry, they will generally be involved in various industries. And when the time comes, you will also have to see what are the industries that you're best suited for. So I think this is a good way of looking at things. You might look at your father, your mother, your cousin who's working in the business and think that that is not something that I want to do in the future, or that's not a role that I want to take up. But you have to understand that that is not the only role there is. Family business is like a big tent. If you can see, this is an adaptation from a professor at Kellogg's. It's an approach on family businesses where you look at it as a tent. So you have to have as many people as you can who can effectively come and contribute in growing the tent, and leave as many people behind outside the tent. And as the tent grows, it is expected that different people will have different aspirations, but you make room for them. So for example, if I talk about my own journey in the education sector, I have an executive role where I work full time in the administration, operations, marketing, and other departments. So my commitment is regular, daily. My interaction with everyone, I'm leading a team of 30 people, so that's daily. In hospitality, wherein I do not operate day to day, my focus is only on the business governance side, making sure all operations are smooth and transparent, benefiting all the main stakeholders. We have a cable manufacturing company, which is a listed company, which is now a professionally run organization. So I sit on the family governance side of it, where periodically I assess and see if the business is working in the way it has to for it to benefit the family that's owning the business. Also, my interests in education and training led me to working with a lot of next generation entrepreneurs like you in the room, and help them in training them for their family businesses. So, as long as you're ready, willing, and able to contribute to the business, there are opportunities. You can work in business or family governance. You can, work in entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship. There are philanthropic endeavors that you can work towards that you might have covered in your modules as well. There are executive roles that you can take up. So if you have different aspirations, different to what your parents want you to do, what your parents are already doing, there is still room for you to do those things. So just negating your businesses, looking at it the first, looking at what your parents do might not be the best approach. Look a little deeper, see what exactly are the opportunities you can take advantage of, and what can you do. uh, then again, when you think of joining your business, taking up these different roles, another thing that comes to mind is the fact that how we are all stewards, and family businesses are something that we want to invest in. We want to grow and earn money from it, but at the end of the day, what are we there to do? We're not there to exploit it in any way. We're not going to be selling it. We're going to create an organization that's going to last for generations to come. This is something that's a key differentiator when you compare it to any other non-family. Have not as long term a view as you would have in a family business, and they would try to come up with things that help them remain relevant for so many years. So by having effective leadership, a proper top to down communication approach where everyone understands your vision, your values, everyone's working towards the same things, proper governance structures so that there's transparency, timely succession, that is something that a lot of families miss out on, is something that's very important. So if we talk about succession, there's another thing that you might have seen in your family businesses or in other family businesses, that they'll have one leader who's going to be taking all the decisions, and he's going to be kind of the central control point of what is going to happen in the organization, and it's primarily run by this person. uh, Through an approach like this, or an autocratic decision making style like this, what happens is you get cut off from the changes in the external world. Now, even though this is the tradition of how things have been going on, and sometimes tradition is the biggest strength for any family business, it can also be a big weakness. It can disrupt the way in which you deal with change, because it can overwhelm people from changing. So, you as a next generation entrepreneur, especially when you have so many technological changes happening around you, with COVID, with old fashioned ways of working and new automation technologies coming literally every day, you will have to make your organization in a way wherein they are ready to accept change continuously. They, instead of having tradition as their motto, having change, as the motto would be much better. And this would require a lot of time, effort, but this is something that will help each of the family businesses that you're going to work with in getting that multi-generational sustainability. So if you want to kind of again reframe how people are thinking, a good way of starting that is going to be reiterating the family narrative that you have. So if you have family businesses, I'm sure each of you know how they started, why they started. It was this one entrepreneur in your family who identified an opportunity, who saw there was scope in something and started, working towards that idea. And little by little, that opportunity grew. So when you talk about change, if you want your organization to adapt with you, you will have to kind of demonstrate that change has always been a part of the culture. You will have to regularly communicate with each of these people to tell them that they have to regularly change in order to be relevant for years to come. Reframing company slogans, logos is another way through which companies try to reinforce change and give people a sense that some new changes are coming in and you have to be welcoming to those. Another thing that you can do is you have to set up incentives, management systems according to where you want the organization to go, where you want the change to go. Having performance reviews based on how you want the actions of employees to be can help subtly reinforce each of the procedural changes that you wish to incorporate in the business. And through this, you can easily develop a malleable culture that is going to be receptive to change and at the same time help the organization work well. So a little mention about what Elisa said about the organization that I'm working with. We are an organization that supports each and every next generation entrepreneur who sets out on their journey to prepare and make their firms multi-generational. We are a team of people who have a collective experience of over 100 years. We're working continuously in different domains to help students, who help family business entrants, and really change the landscape of how things have been going for them in the business. We work through essentially three pillars, basis of which is goal mastery, where you introspect, which was a question again on the survey, because that is going to be the foundation of what you have set out for your own personal self. There's self mastery. Of many times you might have seen that you're always trained to be an employee, not an employer. And when you join a family business, you're going to be the CEO on day one, and not many of us are trained to be CEO on day one. So we have professional trainings that help you reach to that level. Operational excellence, because your organization has been working for so many years, it's a well-oiled machine. So you don't need to learn how to balance a balance sheet, but you need to know what to ask your accountant to make sure your business strategy is going in the right direction. Then we have business family. This is one of the weakest links, because of which make it to the next generation, which is the distance between a family business and a business family. Important issues like succession, compensation, employment, these are the things that are not discussed in a regular family business, because they don't know that these are the things that you have to think about well in advance, even before your organization becomes this complex. So this is another thing that we deal with in through Kin and Kith. Through We have essentially three models that we work in. The first is our Next Generation Academy, where we develop leadership skills. We help and train the family entrant, to help them understand how they can make their firm much more profitable and sustainable. Through our Next Generation Club, uh, even in the survey, a lot of you said that you don't know any other people who are in family businesses. So it's a way for us to connect with the leaders of tomorrow so they can freely discuss all the challenges, opportunities, issues that they might have. We have a next generation leader experience where we do lineups of different professionals, people who are working with us, our mentors all over, who kind of help you train and become the visionary leader that your organization wants you to be. So that brings me to the end, actually. I strongly believe that family businesses are here to stay. They're going to be the growth champions of the future. And you are seeing that in industry after industry, family businesses from emerging markets have become market leaders. And I really hope that the class that I see in front of me is the one that's leading this change, pushing for a better community and ensuring multi generational sustainability for each of the organizations that you end up working for. Thank you. Alisa, I don't mind taking questions now.
Thank you, Nehal. Thank you. That was great to hear about your experience. So we will open for questions now. I have several questions, but I want to prioritize my students' questions. So we can use the chat, or you can raise your hand, and then I will call each of you to share your question with Nehal.
Sure.
Yes, Frederick.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Nehal. That was great. Maybe a bit of a specific question, but what do you think is an example of an incentive structure that stimulates a culture of change, such as you mentioned, that doesn't compromise completely short-term performance? I mean, obviously, a culture of change is important, but in most organizations, short-term performance is also sort of a KPI that's looked at. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question, Frederick, because see, change is, don't think of change as a revolution. Don't think of it that it's going to happen overnight and it's going to disrupt the way things have been going on. Instead, think of it as something that's, like more like an evolution. It happens, on a daily basis. So when you say that, your incentives should be attached to what you want the change to be, overnight it will not be like, okay, you're going to be reporting to this authority figure and the next day it changes. That's not how incentives work. It is going to be something that you can do subtly. It can start with you introducing maybe a next generation to the team and giving everyone incentives, or giving them everyone the opportunity to interact with them. That could be the beginning of it. Clearly then you can have that person take over a couple of the functions that you have for the family business, and then you can little by little change their KPIs. So I mean, this is an example in succession. You can have it in multiple other things, like maybe if you want to change the ways they have been working, like let's say you want them to adapt to technology. So then you will first introduce technology to them. You will have people from the outside coming and coaching them on how to use technology, automation, and training them about those things. Then you're going to be kind of incentivizing them to work on maybe 5 tasks that they can do digitally or through automation or whatever. And then is when you actually little by little you scale up and make sure that entire processes are now, over a period of months and years, sometimes often depending on how crucial the function is, you have that switch over. So don't think of it as something that's going to be overnight. It is something that's going to be a very slow process, especially because you're working with people. When you work with machines, you have to literally change the setting. When you work with human mind, it is much more complicated than that. They are going to receive change in a way where they think that you're threatening them, or maybe that hampers their position in the organization. So don't think that you can do it immediately, but yeah, little by little, subtly is how you have to navigate through it. I hope that answers your question.
I think if I may piggyback on the question a little bit, because I think there are several dimensions to this, right? And I would be interested in hearing from your perspective, Nehal, if these challenges with getting people to buy in change, what is your experience with family members of the business and non-family members?
Personally speaking, in my own experiences, change has been something that has been much more of a problem within the family than, with people who are not part of the family. But that being said, um, it's not something that all businesses will have the same problem. For me, the way things have been running, there is so many people who are part of the family. There's so many people who are not part of the family but have been working for, like decades and decades. So when someone younger like myself comes in the picture, for them to take over, like for them to feel that, okay, that's someone now you have to report to, you, that person has authority over you, it's something that, is quite a battle. And that's something that sometimes, like, a push and pull, you have to work through it. As I mentioned with Frederick as well, this is something that it's going to take years and years. It's not something that can happen overnight. But just the fact that, you're there showing up every day, and if you're committed and you're showing up every day, that's when, you see that, yeah, slowly family is also going to come on the other side. And again, like when I mentioned, talking about change, it's very important for each of us to train our own families to accept change as well. Yeah, I'll give you a context of, myself. For me, I'm only a second generation. So for me, for my family, there's always been only one leader, which has been my father. And now suddenly they have someone else coming in and taking over charge of, that one of the industry that I'm talking about. So for them, they were not prepared for it. They were not ready for it. They did not see it happening. But, when I compare it to another organization that I'm working with, which has had multiple generations, change was much easier there. They were okay with, having someone, a new face, come into the organization, ask questions, try to understand everything, and, take over charge. So it really depends on the history of your own family as well. This is when we really speak about the family narrative. You have to sit down with your parents and understand, how your business started, who all were involved, and, why is it at this stage. For the UK, now family businesses have a big legacy. The other day I was speaking to someone from the UK who's in their whose family business is in their eighth generation. So that's like 200 years of their family business that has been going on. Compare it to something that is in India, which is, our legacies are not too long, because majority of them only started after independence. So they were, max to max, like, 3 decades to 4 decades. Now that's like, two generations coming in, not more than that. So for us, the chains are much smaller. The process of change is going to be much longer, because these organizations will have to adapt and understand that generations are going to come in and are going to go out, but the business has to carry on. So you will have to adapt to that change.
Thank you, Nehal. That was great insight. I think Nakul has a question.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, thank you for the presentation, Nehal. It was really good. And I had a question about not about how you settled into the family business, but about something in the initial stage. So you mentioned that you did a corporate job for a while after your studies and then
That's right.
joined a family business.
Yeah.
So did that job or did that experience add any value to what you're doing right now, or would you rather have joined your family business directly after your studies?
Okay. So I mentioned this during the course of my presentation as well, that there are two sides to this, Nakul. First side being what I got out of the experience. I tremendously learned a lot of things. Working in a big company, you end up meeting, people at influential positions. It really changes who you are, for the better. You kind of have a perspective what it is to work for someone else, which is going to be really helpful when you actually come back and work for your own family. You kind of understand the importance of deadlines, time management, people management. There's going to be a lot of politics in your family business, but a taste of that is what you'll get in your corporate experience as well. But on the flip side, when you look at someone who's working in your family business, let's say you have a family business and you have a manager who's been working there for 15 years.
We lost your audio again, Nehal. Now it's gone.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's back. So the last thing we heard was 15 years.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say was that let's say that you have a manager who works in your company who's been working with your organization for, let's say, 10 to 15 years. One fine day, he has you show up out of nowhere. Let's say you got done with your school education, your college education, and then you came right back. When he sees no accolades attached to someone who's just coming in to the family business because they're a part of the family business, they might want to disregard their authority, right? But when you come in with certain years of exposure that you've had, when you work, when you have worked for an organization that might be much larger than your own family organization, it could be smaller, it could be larger, then they look at you in a way that, okay, if this person could create value somewhere else, it's possible that this person can create value in this organization as well. And the way he will look at you will change. So definitely it will help you. You should think of getting into a corporate job. If you think that that's the way for you to go, but it's not like something that, okay, you have to have a corporate exposure. It's always good to have. It's always something that is going to help you get accepted in the team quickly, but it's not something that's like an eligibility criteria that you have to have it. Because let's say 5 years, 10 years down the line, it will not matter what you learned at that firm, because in those 5 to 10 years, you would have established your authority in this business, and they will respect you for who you are. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there more questions? You can raise your hand or write in the chat and I can read the question. While you think, I have a question for Nehal. So could you tell us a little bit more about the transition? So when you decided to leave your job at Deloitte and then you joined the business, how was it? Which were some of the challenges you faced initially, and how did you work to overcome them? And a different but related question that goes hand in hand with this. I'm thinking of your slide where you were talking about tradition, and specifically in the context of your family firm, where your father, the patriarch, is the key figure and the respected person. How is it to come as a young woman and take this executive role in the business? So also taking that into account. So not only that, but also as one dimension as well.
Right. Okay. So I'll answer the first question. I think, like I mentioned, I was not enjoying my corporate job. I really felt restricted. There were a lot of things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't because my job role didn't allow me to do those things, because I was told what I had to do and I could not, go beyond that. Once I started realizing that, I think the most difficult thing for me personally was to make the decision. It's kind of a leap of faith that you have to take, because there's no surety that you will be able to contribute to your family business, especially because I was trained, I was not trained to look after or work in a family business. And when you think of business and family business, although they sound similar, but there's vast difference between the two. So for me personally, the biggest challenge was the fact that I was unsure of if I wanted to be a part of my family business or not. And the only people, like, I tried to use the internet, find answers, but that was a tedious process. But even the people that I spoke to, had such biased opinions. If I spoke to someone who was in their family business, they were so happy with what they were doing, and they were like, yeah, come and be a part of it, and there's so much for you to do. On the flip side, if you were to speak to someone who is doing very well for themselves in a corporate role, they would call joining your family business as a career suicide. Like, I've also heard things like that. So I think for me, getting the right guidance of what your career path should be is more the biggest challenge I faced. In between the transition, there were more challenges once I did come into the business. But the biggest challenge was the transition, was deciding if I wanted to, kind of take that leap of faith or not. For the second question, that is so true that uh, it's such a matriarchal, system. Sometimes family businesses are looked at in a way where your father, or the male figure is the one who's dominating in the family, and when you have someone who's a young, be someone who's a female wanting to work in an industry like that. And so the first thing that when I was making a decision of what industries I wanted to join in, I think that's when first I realized that there is a divide like this that does exist. I was present. So we're also into real estate, but real estate in India is a sector that's predominantly male dominated. And even though I was curious about that industry, there were not enough opportunities for someone who is a woman, to be in that sector. But that being said, over the past couple of years, I have been engaging in that business as well, and I see that maybe not now, because it's still like women in India do not really work for their family businesses too much. Not a lot of them do. So it's something that's changing, but it's something that's going to take a lot of time to kind of be normal, for people to accept that it's okay for a woman to want to join, their parents' family business and take it forward. Um, yeah, I hope that answers your question as well, both your questions.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see the role of the industry. So how this is a gradual process and connected to the specific industry, and how interesting it is. I wonder how that plays in your advising as well, right? Because you may face these situations where you have the family members are daughters, but perhaps the industry is not so welcoming yet for female leadership, and it must be a challenge. So I wonder, in your advising role for next generation, have you ever advised someone against joining the family business?
Okay, so we're not an advisory, we're like coaching. Essentially, we want to build a community out of this. I do not benefit, in any way by talking to people, working with them, helping them make a decision. There have been instances where we have, suggested, or we've discussed, the fact that joining the business might not be the best thing that they should do. Like I must have mentioned, I'm not sure, I must have forgotten. There was a family, and oh, sorry, again, another correction, that we generally work with younger people. So the problem of a woman, advising and coaching someone really doesn't come up, because as the younger generation, comes in the business, they do not come with that mindset of, women being any less, or, not having as much authority. So for me, that's not been an issue. And, when we have people that we're working with, there was this one, young generation entrepreneur we had, who wanted to join their business, and he was the third, he was one of the three siblings that were already a part of the business. And the business was not so big, so like there was not enough of a role, or there was not enough of the pie for him to chew off of. So we really told him that maybe you can work within your business in a way where you start something else, or something in the related industry, or try to diversify. But joining your family business might not be very helpful. So that time we had interactions with the three brothers in the room, and all of them, both the other brothers said that there isn't any more tasks that we can give out to him, and we would be happy for him to work and create, work on an industry, a different industry, or something, by himself, and then later we can kind of help him, support him. But it didn't make sense for him to join that company. So that has also been the case. And a lot of times we do come across people who even if they have a well flourishing family business, they do not wish to join it for different reasons. So this is just one of the examples where we advise them to, but there are so many people that come with a set goal that they don't want to join, and they don't want to interact or even know talk about why they don't want to join. It's just that they come with their opinion, who come
We
and we
lost you
speak to
again.
them. And
so, and have you also changed people's minds, people who were very adamant they would not join the family business and they see it differently?
so I do know of people who did not feel like joining their business, and we spoke to them a couple of times. We had a broader community. We generally connect people from similar industries as well. So I knew this friend of mine. They were into diamond tools manufacturing. That's another industry. And I knew of through Kin and Kit we have a community. So we knew someone in another city who was a next generation entrepreneur who was going through the same turmoils when they joined the business. So we connected the both of them, and at first tools manufacturing doesn't sound very appealing. So that person was in two minds if they should join, should not join. But after speaking to the one of their peers in another city, that person did want to give it a shot too. So the more people you speak to, the more interactions you have, I think that really opens you up to new opportunities. Yeah, so it's something that the more people you talk to, the more families you talk to, if you go and experience or maybe intern at your own business for a couple of days, you will understand if you want to be a part of it or not.
Thank you. I think Xintian has a question.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Nehal, for this really good presentation and all these great advice. I just have this one quick question. Basically, do you regret taking the family business path? And if you don't, what are your aspirations for like the next 5 years or 10 years? Is this where you see yourself to be?
Okay. Yeah. So, question number one, do I regret? So, I honestly thought, when I first joined my corporate career, that let's see what this life is all about. Growing up, I'd only seen, people, in family businesses or bureaucratic jobs. I hadn't seen anyone in corporate roles. So I thought that that would be something that would be interesting. But I really think it really comes down to what your personal agendas are. See, a lot of people you might know of. I mean, I think everyone has this, that we are species who derive a lot of satisfaction and happiness from our work. So if your work is making you happy, it's going to make your life happy. You'd want to do more things, in that realm. Personally, my corporate job did not make me happy because I wanted to do so much more than what my role, was entitled me to do. So I don't think I have any regrets. Like even when I quit, I had job offers standing with other companies. They were giving me a good hike, but it was more the love of getting satisfaction of work that made me come back to the business. Then again, I'm working on my own entrepreneurship initiatives as well. So I really never feel that I regret anything. But that being said, you might have a different journey altogether. When you go for a corporate exposure, you might really like it. So to each its own. It's your own journey. You might have different aspirations of what makes you happy, what you want with your own life. And second question, okay, so we have chains of hotels that are still restricted in the state. I want to help and grow it and have boutique hotels all over the country. That's my vision for the hospitality group. With the cable manufacturing, since it's professionally run, I still think that in the next 5 years I'll have the same chair. Well, I'll make sure that the interest of family are looked after, because the operations are primarily thought of and worked upon by another division altogether, and I don't work on that on a daily basis. Education, again, we want to really broaden the scope of the colleges that we have. We're into teachers training, we're into vocational courses, we want to get into other courses as well. We want to have many more centers, but we want to, in the next 5 years, my plan is to have many more courses we want to introduce within the existing campus that we have. Yeah, that's tentative to 2 to 5 year goals.
It sounds really cool. Good luck with everything you do.
Thank you so much. Good luck to you too.
Thank you.
That's fascinating, and it seems you have your plate full for the next decade and longer. So we'll take a final question from Sarah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So, thank you, Nehal. That was a great presentation. I think it's one of the best guest lectures I've attended till now. And yeah, so actually, my journey has been very similar to yours. I did my undergrad in economics, and after that, I also worked with a company. Like I worked with Mitsubishi Group in risk management, and my because like my dad also has a family business, and when I worked with another company, so then I also realized the importance of time management and discipline. And obviously, if you are successful in another company, then obviously you are more valued in your family business as well. This was the exact same journey, the same thing that happened with me. So actually my question for you is that how, like, because you are in 3 4 different businesses which are not exactly related to each other, so
Yeah.
how are you managing your time?
Right. Okay, great question actually, and this is something that I get asked a lot. So,
Okay.
if we go back to the tent approach, I have actually divided what I do in each of the industries based on what my personal likes are. Everyone's different, there are things in some industries that I like to work on. There are things in some certain industries that I do not like to work on. So I only have an executive position in the education industry where I work full time, and my own initiative. Those are the two things that I literally do every day, and I devote, I would say 80% of my time to. Okay, 60% of my time to. And the other two businesses, I only take care of them, on a periodic basis, depending on, if there's a need for me to look into some things, or I'm expected to attend a couple of meetings. So I keep my daily operations restricted to, to only a couple of engagements, but still my role is present in other industries, even if it does not, take up too much of my time. So all organizations are also framed very differently. We have a very we have a professionally driven company that is, solely operated by the CEOs, CMOs, and various other people. We have a company which is, like, based on a leasing model. So we have to only work on the corporate side of things, so that kind of narrows down your domain. Sorry, in the hospitality. Yeah. So there are different things that I have decided to, work on and not work on, to make sure that I enjoy what I do. There are other people who work in my family as well, family members and non-family members, and there are things that they take care of as well. So I keep very busy, but it's all the things that are making, me feel very fulfilled. So if you also have a family business, and you're contemplating as to if you should join it or not, definitely think about what is that industry about, what role would you want to play in that industry, and if it's going to make you happy or not. And in case you feel that there are other things that you want to pick up, you can easily pick those things up as well.
Yeah, so no, actually, I am working with my dad. So he has a trading firm. So he
Right.
works in the stock market, and like that's how like I also joined. And yeah, so my thing actually, what I wanted to ask was that this is one particular industry that I'm working in right now. Like after my course, if I want to take up another, like a business or any other thing which is more in my interest, like do two things side by side. So how
Right.
should I manage my time? So yeah. Thank you so much. That helps a lot.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Nehal, for spending this hour with us. I think it has been a very informational talk, and inspirational as well. And I'm sure everyone has learned a lot from your example and has a lot to think of going forward. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you to everyone who's attending. I hope all of you become really successful leaders in whatever it is that you want to pursue ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and all the best for your future plans for the business. We will look forward to hearing about that in the future.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.